Bit it up, oh baby.
Yeah, dig 'em up. Let's sing that song. Dig 'em up, on,
What?
dig it. Dig it up, on, dig it. Yeah, dig
I don't
it
think I
up.
know that song.
What? It's the Holes theme. You don't know that one?
Mm-mm.
Dude, have you seen Holes?
Once, with Ryan, Ali, and Luke.
I want to rewatch Holes. It's one of
I don't
Brandon's
like
favorites.
Holes. Oh,
never
Great labor
mind.
movie.
Mm.
Child
Great,
labor movie.
great labor movie.
all the Mormons liked Holes.
That is true. That is probably why I've seen Holes so much when I was a kid, because I think all my cousins loved it.
All the Mormons' favorite movies were anything by Jared Hess, so like Nacho Libre, Napoleon Dynamite,
Yeah.
Princess Bride.
Oh
uh,
yeah. Elf. Oh, they
Elf.
loved Elf. They
Oh.
loved Elf. I'm saying love. They still exist. I don't know why.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
make
but
that
then-
list on Letterboxd.
Mormon core movies.
Movies
Well,
Mormons
you know what they use to like. There's a service called Guardian Angel
Yep.
where it'll edit movies for you to take out all the profanities.
Yeah.
So
Avatar came with one.
really,
There's a disc on my collector's edition that comes.
is that the one you watch? That's your preferred method?
No, it's not. I swear.
I don't want to watch the one where they say fuck a lot. All right. Well, welcome everybody to Stacked episode 119.
Sorry for my Mormon friends.
Well, Boo scared you all. Yeah, it was a little trick or treat for all of our Mormon listeners. Because it is the 3rd annual Halloween-athon. 3rd? No, it might be the 4th actually.
Lightning strike.
2020, 2021, 2022. We're in the 4th annual Halloween-athon. Guys, this is fucking crazy. We've done this 4 times. Y'all, we were running out of ideas. We were stretching thin with Halloween topics. But I think this week's topic is actually, Brandon, you didn't disappoint today, man. You pulled this one out of your ass real nice. You know, it came out all nice and smooth and shiny. You know. Hey yo, wait a minute.
Diamonds.
Brandon, do you want to talk about this diamond in the rough that you found for this week's topic?
I didn't find it. It came.
You found it. You uncovered it.
Yeah.
In your brain. You racked through the files, the little filing cabinets in your brain. Although there's a bunch of little Brandons in your mind. They're like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I got it!
It's like the SpongeBob episode.
Exactly. Name. What's his name?
Yeah, exactly. I thought of make because nowadays we've obviously guess what's coming out like literally today from when we're recording it is Saw X.
Yes, which Chris and I are seeing right after we record this.
Yes. Oh no.
What's up?
Cassidy quit unexpectedly.
Oh. Yay, it ain't Halloween without some tricks, you know? That's all right.
I can recover the project.
Just recover it and re-record, and I'll use like your Cumulon audio.
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. Cool. I'm recording.
All right.
No, it keeps happening. It just did it again. Is this going to be a problem? What's the comment under it?
It keeps crashing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine. I'm gonna use Craig. I'll use Craig. Don't even worry about it.
Okay,
you'll sound okay. All right, folks. Brandon's audio may not sound good today because his computer keeps crashing because he just has terabytes and terabytes of funny Halloween videos, right, Brandon? Yeah, funny Halloween videos.
They're
funny Halloween videos, little tricks. He has a bunch of JPEGs of candy. Each candy in his, his desktop is cluttered with that stuff.
You should see it.
It's a sight. It's a sight to call the cops on.
What?
Yeah. I don't know. It's because you stole that candy. I don't know. Anyways, Brandon, what are we talking about today? Let's actually get into it.
We're talking about the makeup movies. We're talking about the horror VFX movies. Saw X is coming out as we are recording this, and films nowadays utilize more visual effects than practical effects, but we want to just sort of but there are still some films that use modern horror films that use like gore and squibs and
Yeah.
all that. But I just can't help but reminisce on the old medium because it is so important for creating something so unnatural and fear inducing. You know,
Yeah.
there's something great about the horror of the unknown and what's the Lovecraftian and Kafka-esque
So like
appearances and stuff like that.
cosmic
I
horror
mean,
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
cosmic, yeah. When that's done practically, because that sort of horror is very abstract, so you usually see that in some visual effects are usually help to achieve that. And I feel like we can touch on visual effects this episode, like because I feel like uh you know making something physical, uh a scare, a creature, some makeup, some gore, when it's actually, when you can tell that's actually something like that was on set, um I think it helps you believe into the horror a bit more. But there are some films that use, digital effects to create horror, and I feel like that's just as impressive, because I feel like uh the believability is harder to achieve digitally, so I'm sure we'll talk about some later. But yeah, Brandon, I'm glad you brought this topic because um I just watched the new film No One Will Save You. It's a great alien home invasion film. I highly recommend you all check it out on Hulu. Um, but the one thing I thought the movie was really scary, but the one thing that was just like pulling it back from being like a knockout horror film were its visual effects, because then just like that threshold of believability was gone, you know? So this episode, we're going to use this time to talk about films where, uh, makeup and visual effects artists really got to flex and show us some scary stuff, Um, Chris, do you want to kick off this episode
Yeah,
with a film to talk about? Let's
cool.
do it.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna kick off with a pretty obvious one. I think one that's probably most definitely on your list, Ethan. Let's talk about The Thing, John
the
Carpenter's The Thing.
the gold standard. I got it. This is
Yeah.
the gold standard for not just horror effects, but I just think practical effects in general. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
um, yeah, Chris, you brought it up. What do you think about the thing? Because I've
Yeah.
talked enough about this movie. What
Yeah.
do you
Well,
think?
I've only seen this movie that one time. Brandon, Ethan, did Joey come with us, or was it just the two? Was
It's
it
No,
just
just
the
the
it was
three of
just 3
us.
of us. Joey
We
still hasn't seen it.
I know, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna change that this month. I'm changing that this month somehow. I'm gonna make a real special screening for him.
But the thing is, yeah, I remember we snuck into a theater back at college, and we played it on the big screen. And wow, this movie left a mark. You know, if someone asked me like, if someone today asked me like, oh, what is the thing about? The only way I can like contextualize it, other than just like plotting, giving them the exact plot, is saying like basically it's Among Us, but in a really tense movie. um, and yeah, that's what makes this movie work. It's, I mean, on top of like the central mystery of who is the the imposter, if you will, or the thing, the movie does this really great job of making you feel horrified by the ambiguity of not knowing like who's who. There's this great scene where they have to draw blood, and that's probably my favorite scene of the movie. Maybe the ending is the only
Yeah,
contender. Um, but yeah, there's something. This movie's also surprisingly slow, especially in the beginning. You're really like given the room to like breathe into the world, and then when the horror starts, it really does. And thanks to the amazing effects, oh my god, there's some stuff in here that like even though like if you look at it in a still image and like really scrutinize it, you buy, oh yeah, that's a prosthetic. But when you're watching the movie in like a primal, like like you're not going down to the nitty gritty frame by frame, and you're just experiencing the movie, it is absolutely captivating. Every effect is so tangible, and that's
It's
because it's,
impressive.
yeah,
yeah, it's so practical. Um, yeah, I have nothing but praises to say about especially the effects of this movie. I think a rewatch is due for me to like kind of cement myself into the story. But as
yeah.
far as craftsmanship go, it's 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Shout out to Rob Bottin. He is the visual effects master. He's really what spearheaded the practical effects for this film, and he worked a lot with Paul Verhoeven. So
Yep.
Total Recall and RoboCop, that was also him, and those are great films with great practical effects as well. But The Thing, oh man, this was one of those films for me. This is like I watched it senior year of high school, because when I got it was when I got accepted to Chapman, right? And I was like, all right, I got to start knocking out some like important films before I go to film school, and I always saw that poster for The Thing. I had no idea what it was about, and so I watched it, and I kid you not, that summer and into like my freshman year, I probably watched it like 15 times, because I was just taken away by just like the way they're able to deliver the tension between all the people who work at that research station. And I think that visual effects would not work as well if that tension wasn't there, because John Carpenter, he's slowly building up, like you said, Chris. It's a slow burn. You see the dog uh enter the station. You're like, why are these Norwegians trying to kill this dog? They go to the station, it's a fucking massacre there. People's throats are slit open. There's a guy with two faces melted, and you're like, what thing, did this? And then we finally get to the scene in the dog kennel, where, and I think what a way to introduce what this movie's gonna be, with having that dog turn into just that monstrosity with that flower lotus of like dog tongues, and the spider legs, and how they would like have the veins come out of it. I watched the behind the scenes documentary, and what they would do is they actually like a lot of stuff is in reverse.
Yeah, reverse photography is
So
huge in
they
the
would
horror
suck
effects.
all the like those intestine things in, and then they reverse it so it looked like all these tentacles are coming out, and it's just like it's just brilliant filmmaking, just brilliant creative filmmaking.
I don't think people utilize it enough.
No.
Reversing.
No, yeah, reverse photography is ever since like kind of the advent of visual effects,
VFX,
reverse
yeah.
photography kind of, it's not something that, because nowadays it's cheaper to just pay someone to do the visual effects, and no hate to VFX artists, you guys are the fucking backbone of this industry at this point, but there's something so tangible about having the practical thing and doing it in camera as much as you can.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's great. I think the practical effect that really stands out to me the most is the head and the gross spider legs.
Oh yeah.
That's
I have
also a reverse
arachnophobia.
effect.
Yeah, that's also a reversed effect. Yeah, and like the eyes come out, and it is.
I just think
horrifying.
it's like
snail eyes.
Oh.
Yeah.
it's like the fix it and post mindset was maligned, and it still kind of is. But like,
Mhm.
I think you can touch it up in post, but this looks like terrific. Like, eliminate the wires if you're going to do that. Eliminate any
I mean,
depictions of it being in the reverse, but you can't tell if you're just watching the movie.
and you simply could not do that in 1982.
No,
Yeah.
there was no fix it and pose. You could only just cut the film.
Scrub
You could,
scrub something on the frame, paint over every frame of the movie.
yeah, you literally
But-
have to like paint the cells, but yeah. Ugh.
I don't know. I think there's some sort of beautiful nature to the kinetic movement of the creatures in this movie. It's harrowing because it's so like when you're looking at it, you're like, and you're really examining it. There is a living being and a texture there where it doesn't like. I know there are prosthetics, but like, my goodness, it's like sometimes really hard to tell between what's skin and what's rubber.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like the only scene where I'm sure it's not the best is like the initial scene of the stomach opening up. You know what I'm talking about when
Oh,
When
he's
it
doing.
first pops.
Yeah, that's
like-
the only scene where I'm like, it's a little spotty, but the rest of it is so spot on.
Yeah.
With like watching these creatures like mow down the people
Yeah.
on this Arctic surface.
yeah. And
Yeah.
just talking about like what's skin and
Antarctic.
what's not, I just think a
Yeah.
brilliant thing that they do. So I know like every scene in this movie, like the back of my hand, is when when the guy gets shot right at the beginning, he gets shot by the Norwegian, and they're stitching him up, and it's like it's excruciating just to see the
The
doctor
needle.
thread the needle, and you're just like, ooh, because John Carpenter's establishing that like we are fragile human beings. We're a lot more fragile than we think we are. We
Yeah.
can rip, tear, spill our guts open pretty easily. So that was like him setting up like, hey, just if you think this is gnarly, just get ready for the rest of this movie. Um, and you're talking about the blood testing scene, Chris.
That's one of my favorite
That
scenes
I
of
think
all
that's the
time.
best scene in the film.
Yeah.
That because it is just the perfect
Tension,
synthesis of tension,
character.
performance, character, and effects.
Hmm.
He's like, and that's why we'll do you last, childs. And you're like, and the jump scare comes out of nowhere, because you're just like, it's not gonna happen while he's talking, So then he just casually does it, and then spills open, and the guy's face opens up like two like jaws and like bites him and everything. I gotta disagree about the stomach as the worst visual effect. I think the worst visual effect is uh when Palmer bites the guy and he like lifts him up and you can clearly tell it's like a dummy in the air. Do you remember that when he like bites down on his head and like his like dummy legs are like
I think
flailing
I
everywhere?
think
But
I'm
I
just
think it's
talking.
really fun. I think it's charming. I think it's really
Yeah.
charming,
Hmm.
But it's great. Okay, I could go hours and hours with this movie. Great way to kick it off, Chris. I was gonna pick this movie. How could you not pick this movie when we're talking about practical effects and horror? Um, Another film I want to jump to about practical and makeup effects in horror was one that I actually just recently watched that like I had no idea they were gonna go so crazy. And I showed this movie to you guys. I think Hellraiser is a very
Mm.
I think it's a very
Impressive.
foundational
Yeah.
like series specifically when it comes to like the makeup and costuming, because they're designing these Xenobites, these just hellish demons who are they perceive pain as pleasure, so how do you create a creature who is addicted to pain, who constantly wants to be in pain because they think that's the ultimate pleasure. So you just see some gnarly things of like, you got Pinhead, obviously iconic with all the pins in his face, um and his nipples are like hooked to his jacket and his leather, skin and clothing are sort of, there's not really, the lines are blurred between these two and these characters and what they're wearing, um and I just think it's so cool, so crazy. I think the craziest scene in any Hellraiser movie is in the first one when Frank is coming back to life. You guys remember the scene in the beginning of the movie where it's like, it's in the room where he died in, and it's like he slowly turns from nothing into like the zombie, So you see like this puddle of goo come together. You see like these bones come together, and then you start to see like the muscle come on it, and like the eyeballs come out of the skull and everything, and it's all practical, and like Frank is like and it's a painful process, you can tell, of this like, imagine being like coming from nothing and all your atoms like building up to something, to creating your being. That would probably be a pretty excruciating process, and
I think it's fun.
I think it's incredibly fun to watch. I don't know. I can't really say to do.
Wait, you've never done that before?
Okay. Wait, I have, but it took me 9 months to do it, and I was a
Was that
baby.
painful?
I don't think. I can't quite remember, to be honest, because I don't think my brain was fully formed yet. But we all went through it. Speaking of which, when I left you guys, when we were in Portland, I went to the Science Museum in Portland with my sister and my brother-in-law, and I went to this exhibit where I saw a fetus through every stage in the womb, like every month, and it was actual like fetuses that they've collected, and it was crazy to see. Like, talk about,
How were they preserved?
they're just in those like vats, and like I don't know what preserve, they do that a lot. You've seen that with like like deformed animals and stuff. They
They're
keep
like
them
a
in
Yeah.
they're like a back to tank from Star
yeah.
Wars.
It was kind of like something like that. But like I literally saw it from just like the egg, and you just walk down the hallway and watched it slowly grow over time, and it's like it's crazy. It's crazy that one of the first things that gets fully formed are our toes and fingers. So like the fetus was like this big, like is the size of like a dime, maybe even smaller. And like our toes are so intricate and our fingers are still like, you know, ah,
Ugh,
nature,
interesting.
man. It's crazy. Anyways, why are we talking about that? What do you guys think of Hellraiser? Because I know you guys aren't all about this movie like me, but
Yeah.
Nope.
the effects are still pretty crazy, right?
No, yeah, that was the biggest praise I gave this movie. I wrote about in my letterbox review. I wrote about how there's amazing practical effects and an excellently built world. It's just the story didn't really resonate with me.
Yeah,
But largely the film stands on its feet because of its style and approach. And yeah, there's nothing bad I can say about the effects. It is very well handled, and as someone who I had never seen a Hellraiser movie prior, but I knew Pinhead and I knew of
yeah.
that character, and I think it's because yeah, this is the kind of stuff that you know that will make a character like him, even if the movie isn't the most well received among the general populace. It makes them iconic.
Absolutely. I just saw a finger come out of frame and just poke Brandon in the forehead. It was like
Have a
it
lick.
reminded me. It reminded me of that hand from SpongeBob, where like he picks up SpongeBob to go take him to go clean him on the toilet. It was just a finger, just doink. What do you think, Brandon? Hellraiser.
I was just looking this up online, what to comp it to, but have you guys heard of that museum exhibition called Body Worlds?
Yeah, I remember
It,
it came to Utah, and I remember seeing it.
I think I've seen it. I've been to it twice because my parents were like obsessed with like museums, science museum stuff to take us to when I was a kid.
Me too.
And I remember being like, oh, this is so like crazy to see like the body basically framed as if like you'd stripped a human's skin or skeleton off.
Hmm.
Uh, and Hellraiser to me is like Body Worlds because
Yeah.
you see this person in multiple stages as they grapple with their lack of bodily function, and he's terrified by all these people that come to stalk him to his door to make sure that
Mhm.
he's doing everything in order to keep his human form and to stay alive, right?
Right.
He's sort of well, the plot is he escaped from hell, right?
Right. Yeah.
Somehow he escaped from hell, and he's terrified of the Cenobites finding him because they'll take him
Yeah.
back to hell. So what he
Right.
has to do is he has to like drain the life force from victims to
Which
regain
means
his
kill
full
them.
human. Yeah,
But like
exactly.
you see this decomposing shell of his former self, and that's like Body Wars. And like
Yeah,
my favorite stuff in this is when he's like, you see all the veins running across his forehead, and it's like full body. It's not just
yeah,
like, oh, we're gonna just do the head, or oh, we're
exactly.
just gonna do the legs. It's
Hmm.
like whole body stuff, and that's
Whole,
really impressive. So
yeah. Um, yeah. I love Hellraiser. I love the story too, just because of its like I love the world building and how hell is depicted. I highly recommend if you haven't seen Hellraiser, just at least check out the first two. Some say the sequel is better than the original, so if you're ever curious, guys, go check out the
Hmm.
sequel. Um,
no,
but yeah, no, I'm good. All right, that's fine. Um, Brandon,
yeah.
give us one.
I was thinking of going the disgusting route. Not saying the thing isn't, but
Right.
it's like a imitation of what humanity actually is. And
Mm-hmm.
Hellraiser is very much human. So let's
Yeah.
look at something a little more non-human. I'm picking the movie Slither by James Gunn.
Oh,
Ooh,
I haven't seen this yet.
Yeah,
it's
Chris,
good.
look up some images and tell me those effects and
Oh,
practical makeup is not as impressive as it's
I mean,
disgusting.
I'm just looking at the banner on Letterboxd right now, and that looks fucking gross. They look like leeches.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's not just that these parasites are infecting human beings; it's that they are trying to adapt humanity. Not adapt, but like take control in essence. That's what a parasite does. And looking at the creatures in this movie, I remember being
Ugh, what the fuck? That's so gross.
exactly. It's like trauma VFX, and it's like so real and practical, and you don't want to be anywhere near it. But that's kind of what makes it terrifying,
Yeah.
to see
Ooh.
something that gross and large, and like I said before, Lovecraftian. Like it's so
Mhm.
inexplicable because you don't see things like this in everyday life.
No,
And and Michael Rooker's transformation in this
it's
is
crazy. It's
it's
absolutely
crazy
crazy.
because
Look,
it
But
doesn't it's slow, a slow
mhm.
transformation. It's not like instantaneous like in The Thing. Uh and I mean not to knock Hellraiser, but like I said, it's very much human based. Not
Yeah.
saying that the Cenobites is forms because those
It's
aren't human.
it's manipulation of the human body that already exists. There's no excess, you
Right,
know?
yeah.
exactly. It is coming outwards from it, but it's like the inward
Yeah.
change that you're sort of seeing depicted on the outside of the human skin.
Yeah.
And it's just honestly like one of the grossest things I've ever seen, but that's what makes it so perfect.
Hmm.
Because
Or like it's been a while since I've seen it, but there's that woman
yes, she's
and
massive. Yeah.
and it's because there's a bunch like she's has all the eggs inside her, right? Of
Right.
these leeches.
Yeah.
And I'm just because Chris, when you see like a queen ant or something like that, and they're fucking filled to the brim because they're just full of like insect eggs, right?
Yeah.
Imagine that, but with a person, you know.
Ugh.
It's like Violet Beauregard in the
It
God.
literally it's like Violet Beauregard, but straight up body horror, no blue, and even bigger, and it is just
unless you're talking the Tim Burton one.
yeah.
In which it's probably the same size.
Hmm.
I just oh man, I hope James Gunn does something like this again. I feel like that was
Superman
one of the
Legacy.
Superman Legacy. There's gonna be some fucked up shit in that one. He probably won't because he's probably gonna be in DC for the rest of his days, which I'm not complaining about. I think he's such a creative guy, but I don't know. Just like I have, it feels this movie felt a lot like he took a lot of John Carpenter from it. Obviously The
Yeah.
Thing, but also like I would say like The Fog, or uh Children of the Damned. Even though that I didn't really like that one, it seems like he took a lot. It was like a perfect blend of '90s and '80s Carpenter. What Gunn was doing this one. Also, like in the Mouth of Madness, I'd say there's a bit
I
of
was
that there
thinking about
too.
that.
In terms of like the small town, uh, aesthetic wise.
I think the
Um,
backwoods is like the perfect place to explore this kind of stuff because
yeah,
it's like so people are
rural
different there.
America.
We don't know
Yeah,
what it's like. We're all city people or
yeah,
suburb people. So it's like kind of interesting to dig into what people are like there.
yeah. And most of them are crazy. I'm just kidding. Uh,
Oh,
a lot of them. Some of them. A lot of them. Maybe.
Hmm.
Who knows? Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
pick. You got one, Chris?
Oh yeah. I want to kind of loop these two in together because I give the same praises to each of them. So I have two movies. I have The Fly and an American Werewolf in London.
Dude,
okay.
we're hitting the classics.
Okay. Fly. I didn't really know what to expect when I decided to watch this. But I came away like it's a surprisingly like melodramatic and like tragic, sad, emotional
Yeah.
movie. You'd think like, oh, The Fly, it's like some kind of sensationalized horror movie, with some cheesy dialogue. You have like kind of that inclination just from that title and the concept itself, but you're kind of treated to this amazing story about a human losing their humanity
Mm.
through this horrifying transformation. And my God, this is a horrifying transformation.
Yeah.
It's so like the way like the skin kind of just strips itself off and then like new body parts are kind of revealed and things kind of crack and pop. It's so disgusting. But throughout the movie, what makes this movie work, on top of some brilliant practical effects, is that the story makes you care for this person.
I
And you care
know.
about his relationship. And you see how, like, you kind of like you almost kind of put yourself in the shoes of this person and the shoes of their significant other, because you imagine like I don't Brandon, I don't know if Evelyn's ever asked you this, but has or or anything like this, but like has she ever asked like, would you love me if I turned into a worm?
Yep.
You ever heard of that? Yeah,
Yep.
but it's like, but like, and of course, when she asks you that, you say, of course, like, sweetie, I love you, blah blah blah. But oh man, like,
Gina
man, the
Davis
part,
has to take it literally in this movie.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, bro, like, you think that's cute? Look at this movie. This movie's gross as fuck, but man, like you feel the tragedy, you really do,
Mm.
and it's heartbreaking, but also like, yeah, it's rough, but I really dig this movie. Um, Really quickly, I'm sure you guys want to talk about The Fly, but
Yeah.
An American Wolf in London. We were talking earlier about reverse photography. This movie does it too. There's this
Oh, yeah.
great scene, the big transformation scene. They basically took like patches of like skin, like prosthetic skin, and
Mhm.
put it in front of the camera and just pulled the hair um out, pulled the hair out of it, and then reversed the photography so
So it
that
looks like
then
it's
it looks
coming.
like hair is growing out, is growing in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm just like, so simple but so effective, and because that movement, that's really hard to replicate in visual effects, because so
Mhm.
organic and so specific, every follicle of hair, but
Yeah.
man, they nail it. And yeah, what do you guys think of The Fly?
I mean, I think the coolest thing about Cronenberg is that like he never uses he never uses body horror for shock value. Every body horror is always used to elevate another another genre within his films that isn't horror. So
Yeah.
for The Fly, the body horror is used to elevate the tragedy of the situation.
Hmm.
I feel like The Fly is more of a tragedy than it is a horror film.
Yeah,
Because like you said, it's and like what Brandon said, Kafka-esque. He said Kafka-esque in the beginning of the episode. This is a very Kafka-esque film because it's like it's paralleling a physical loss of humanity to a mental one, because
yeah,
Jeff Goldblum's character, he starts to lose like what it means to be human, um, and he sort of just loses himself in his work, and his basic insectoid instincts sort of come in, once his fly DNA slowly weaves his way into his human DNA.
yeah,
And you have just the tragedy with his relationship with Gina Davis and her reaction to how his transformation, and it is just brutal, so disgusting. Another film that I don't really want to talk too much about, um, but it's another Cronenberg film, Crimes of the Future. I think also does body horror really
yeah,
well to sort of talk about a philosophical topic, of and a social topic, really, um, of how we've become so desensitized to certain things because of just technological progress. Um, I think that does a great job of body horror in that, but The Fly, yeah, like such a tragic movie, and
yeah,
it's made all the more devastating when you see this human lose his form physically. It's not a visual effect; it's physical, so you
yeah,
feel it. You feel the pain in him.
yeah. The
Brandon.
real quick, the
Oh yeah,
thing that really stands out to me about this is like you said, Ethan, this movie is more a tragedy that's elevated by horror elements rather than a horror movie that has a tragic like underpinning to it.
yeah,
And I think the reason that this movie works is because like if you were to take out all of the crazy effects, it's still a very soundly written story.
yeah,
Like this movie could work without the effects, but the effects just takes it the extra mile, and it is fantastic. Brandon, what do
exactly.
you have to say about The Fly?
Brandon loves this movie.
Flies. This is one of my favorite.
Hello, what happened to you?
So this is one of my favorite horror films of all time. I've always sort of loved this film because it's like, in spite of the fact that it is like dehumanizing to see somebody go through this, you never see Jess Goldblum necessarily completely lose his humanity, even when he's a fly. because at the very end of the movie, he's the one that makes the choice, for Gina Davis, essentially. Even
Yeah.
though, like, it's probably a given what she's gonna do.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that about this movie because there's just no, the body horror and makeup is really good too because yes, it's another slow transformation, which gives us a lot of things to look at because even in the initial stages, you've got like the little things about a fly that are just
Mhm.
on Jeff Goldblum's body, like his little feelers
Yeah.
on his back. And then when it gets to the more grotesque stuff, it's like the scales and like the eyes popping out, and there's like his mouth producing that larva
His
that is
fingernails
coming.
coming off. That was
Yeah,
like one of the first. That was one of the earlier ones where I'm like, oh,
yeah,
god damn,
and
that
and I
sucked.
wouldn't say any of us are particularly like maybe Chris, you are a little bit, but like
A little bit.
none of
I'm
us are
squeamish.
like yeah, a little squeamish. But it's like there are things here that are very by using practical, it really hits home harder. And I don't think if they did a remake of this, it would be as compelling necessarily.
I don't think it would work. I don't think a
Yeah,
VFX remake would work.
right.
Yeah.
And even in the I mean, I know it's based on the 50s one, but I haven't seen it, so I would be very curious to see if it's just like a guy walking in with a suit and a fly head or something like that.
I think it literally is. I've seen stills. It's just like he just has a big old fly head, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, all right.
All right. Cool. But like here it's like it's so yeah, like you said, it's so tragic and the actual effects really play into that tragedy
Yeah.
because of course it's so sad. And I didn't expect it to be sad. I thought, "Oh, this is just going to be like a very effective horror movie that's capitalizing on shock value." But this was like I think my first Cronenberg and I remember being like, "Actually there's such a compelling narrative here that I'm kind of blown away by it all."
Yeah.
Mm.
I think he's just as good as a dramatic director as he is a horror director.
Right.
Which is why he has some movies like Road to Perdition and stuff like that. That doesn't necessarily have body horror. But then, of course, I feel like his more famous ones are the ones with body horror.
Mhm.
All right. If we want to continue transformation, I got one more before we can go to like a different field. And I feel like we can't talk about sort of grotesque um, transformations and makeup. We talked about this before on the body horror episode. This was only when Chris had seen this film, but now all three of us have seen it. Tetsuo the Iron Man. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's on my list too. That drill penis, man.
The drill
That really
penis,
got
dude.
that really got to me.
But just like that, I don't know. Just I think what made it so effective is they shot it in black and white. So
Yeah,
it's
and
sort of like
yeah,
they use shadows to sort of cover up the seams. You know what I mean? So
yeah. No, black and white
it
helps. It does help.
it it it, it just creates like this flawless looking creature, this machine man creature, um, that is just like, oh, it. I don't think that I've ever seen something like more painful happen to a human being. That just seems like being full of like car parts and iron rods and stuff, metal, uh, would just be
Oh,
that would just be
I can.
horrifying.
I'm already getting grossed out just thinking about how bad that would smell.
Yeah.
Like the rust and shit. Ugh.
Oh. And like the ending is also really cool too because another just like a practical effect that I don't know if you'd call this a practical effect, but there's a big fight at the end, right? And it sort of turns into
Uh-huh.
like an action movie. And the filmmaker uses stop motion to sort of uh relay like the intensity of speed and of power between like these two people fighting. And it's something so brilliant that's just like that's completely practical yet just amazing to watch. And that you can feel the gravitas of these characters movements and stuff through stop motion. And when they like speeding through the city and stuff like that, you're like, whoa, like this looks better than the last year's Flash movie. And it's just stop motion. It's crazy.
Mm.
But Brandon, I remember we watched this together and we were just in awe of like how crazy it was.
Mhm.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Really? All right, Chris. What do you think of this?
Yeah. Tetsuo is, oh god, this movie haunted my dreams for a while. And I don't have dreams often. But
It's true.
yeah, this movie, it I've never had such a primal like response of disgust to a movie before. Like, I've seen, I like to think on some level I've seen a good handful of things, like, on movies and the internet. You never know what you find. But this movie like awoke in something like really, really disgusting, and I don't know, it really got under my skin. But I can't lie, the effects are really fucking good.
I
Um,
don't I don't know if it's, like, the speed of the camera or whatever, but that I don't know if that hinders my necessarily, believability of it all. With all the other films, I feel like it's done in a way that it never loses my, like, believability, like with The Thing or Slither. It just looks like they've inflated a human or, turned a human into a fly. With this film, it's like with the combination of metal and man, it's like I wouldn't say it's as believable, but because of the fast camera movement, it makes it less believable because I'm like, you're not focusing on it. Like, it's not in awe for the audience to see.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make it any less impressive to see like a metalloid man like launching himself at other people with his penis of metal
Yeah.
that we've talked about
This
briefly.
pe-
It's
yeah.
penis of
penis of
metal.
metal.
I just
Um,
want to reinstate this one more time. A penis of metal, and it has a drill on it too. Um. Anyways, yeah.
One thing that does stand out to me about this movie is it has a lot of parallels with Akira.
It does.
It came,
I was gonna say
um,
that too.
Akira only came out the year prior, and Tetsuo is the name of the villain of Akira,
Yeah.
who, or depending on the way you view it, he can also be seen as like a tragic, uh, victim. Um, but yeah, like the fusing of flesh and metal, that's something that is very closely linked with Tetsuo and Akira,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both Japanese movies, both almost a little experimental in their own ways.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the like I don't know. I love Akira, and that's a fun bit of intertext there.
Absolutely. All right. Let's try to get into another field of horror, and I feel like this one is like a a big one for like showing off practical effects, and I'm sure all three of us have an example prepared. I feel like we got to talk about zombie movies. I feel like zombies,
Yeah,
that is
I've got one.
something super super standard for showing off practical effects. Chris, do you want to shout out a zombie movie?
I'm gonna pick a movie that Brandon delightfully showed me, and it is still one of my favorite horror movies. Brain Dead by Peter Jackson.
There
So
it
good.
is. Yeah.
Funny as fuck and violent as hell, but my god, is it fun. Yeah, surprise, like very breezy movie. You don't need to take it too seriously. It's not overly dramatic or anything. It has so much fun with itself. Um, you know, Peter Jackson. This is before he like really really took off as a director. But guy knew his stuff from day one. And he really delivered with this. Hyster One of the funniest sequences I've ever seen in film is the baby in the park scene in this
Yeah.
movie. It is still so fun. I don't know. Dude, Tori might actually dig this movie. Zombie baby.
Oh, that would be a great movie night.
Yeah.
Has
Hey,
Joey
that's
seen Brain Dead?
not on Letterbox at least. Yeah, I guess not.
Brandon, come
It's a
over,
tough one
bring
to
your
find.
DVD. Do you have
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I do. I mean, it's one of the rarest
Yeah.
DVDs I own because I think that's the most I've ever spent on one movie.
Really?
I think I spent like $40 to get that
Ooh.
Oh,
because it's so hard to find. Maybe a
yeah.
lot
Yeah.
more than that actually.
I'm like, that's how much a Disney movie is these days.
50 to
Because
60, somewhere in that range.
yeah, that's pretty expensive. But yeah, Brandon, you need to bring that over because that is a great movie to watch with friends.
I don't know if Joey would like it though.
What.
I-
I
I
Joey
have
is
I,
kind
I
of
have a
squeamish.
I have a feeling Tori might like it more. But then again, as we said,
That's
we
crazy.
never
I
know.
don't know. I never
No,
know
I
this.
think Joey will enjoy the charm of it and the low budgetness of it.
Because they don't
How
really watch a lot of horror movies.
yeah,
They're not big into horror.
No, they
but
are not. So
well, that's gonna change this Halloween season. I only want to watch horror starting October 1st. I want to dive deeper and deeper into the genre because I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, this one's a great one. Most blood ever used in a movie, right? I think
yeah,
that's still the record holder.
some
Um,
10,000 plus 20,000 plus gallons, I think.
and just what
That's
happens in
insane. That
the house.
house.
That
And they went
house.
under budget.
Yeah,
That's why they have that.
They were still oh, that's why they can just go crazy with it.
Yeah, because they were like, oh, let's go to the park scene with the baby. That was only shot because they were under budget, and they were like, we need a.
We
Which,
need to
if you
make our
look at
town do something.
what, because if you look at like the film, it really doesn't make sense why it
no,
would.
it's just dropped in the middle for no reason, but
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
funny as hell and super fun.
But I also agree. I was gonna talk about this one maybe because it's not just like transformation and stuff like that. Because zombie movies
Mhm.
are that, but it's like the breaking down of the human form, the clever nature of prosthetics and limbs, the thousands of gallons of blood used, the animatronics,
Yeah,
puppets, everything. You know, it's got the works.
it's got the
Yeah.
works.
God, I guarantee you, if you went to that house, if that house is still standing, if you open that door, it's like the Shining door. I bet it's still got blood in there.
Yeah.
I bet there's some stains they couldn't get out.
Oh, surely,
I
definitely.
that is a set I am sure they just demolished that set. There's no way.
Yeah, they
What
must
if
have
they
brought it
The
rookie after
house
that.
literally is destroyed by the end of the movie, you know?
Speak
There's
for
no way they
yourself.
What do you mean speak for myself? Brandon, what's another good zombie movie that we could talk about in terms of
I
practical
just
effects?
watched this probably a month ago because
Yeah.
I'm trying to go through all the DVDs that I've personally purchased or gotten as gifts.
Yeah.
Because my collection, I sometimes when I was in high school, I would blind buy from my local video store. And for a long time, I put this one off, and I'm so upset that I put it off. I'm choosing Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror,
Oh.
And
which is a zombie
terror.
movie.
It's a
And
zombie movie.
it's one of those movies where, okay,
What the fuck? Whoa!
yeah,
This
and
reawoken
it's
a memory for me. I've seen this.
yeah,
I've seen this somewhere.
good. It's like it's a B movie. It's playing upon the B movie nature of things. Like it feels like a 1950s B movie mixed with like an 80s exploitation grindhouse movie that they would put out for like I don't know 50 grand. But it's
Mhm.
got the budget of a movie that is like way above that. And it shows because it's a zombie movie that utilizes the disintegration of the human form because it's one of those movies where it's like a chemical is released in a small town or in a like a suburbia or somewhere else, and it has affected all the slowly but surely like changed the way like humans are into like zombified beings, you know. And you see this it's like the Indiana Jones Raider scene where the guy's face melts off um
Yeah.
when he sees the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
And it's like that, but like a whole movie, and they're like zombies. But there's these characters like military soldiers who essentially need this chemical to stay human and who are like seeking it out in order to not become deformed. And when they don't go without it, you see like these little moving things on their face, like in the Suicide Squad with the polka dot man.
Oh,
Like
like little
like
bulges.
yeah, like bulges coming, but they're
Ooh, I hate that shit.
moving and breathing and
It's one of my
like
biggest fears.
growing until like they explode or combust or something like
Yeah.
that, and then become like non-human. And like seeing that is like so entertaining, and it's Robert Rodriguez's one of his best movies, if not his best. There's not a lot of good in his filmography, being honest. Uh, but with that movie, it's like, oh my gosh, like he's playing into a style that works. It's extremely gory. You've got practical effects and blood squibs that are really impressive and give a lot of value to the production.
Mhm.
And yeah, I love this movie. I think you guys would too, actually. So
I
if
got
you need a Halloween movie to watch, that's your one.
I'll check it out. I'll definitely check out the season. I know the lady with that machine gun leg is pretty
Yeah.
iconic.
Yeah.
So I
I've seen
recognize
that
it just
somewhere.
from
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I'll definitely check it out. And just speaking of Robert Rodriguez, another good practical effect film that he has is From Dusk Till Dawn.
Which I
I'm a
haven't
big fan.
seen.
I'm a fan of that one. That one's cool and has some really cool vampire effects. You know, um, check it out. Quentin Tarantino. He's an actor in the movie, which is
Yeah, he
crazy.
plays the rapist
He
according
plays
to
a
Letterboxd.
yeah, he plays like this gross rapist guy who gets and he gets his what he deserves. So don't worry.
Wait. He plays a rapist in that movie?
Oh yeah,
No,
that
in the one that you
from
yeah.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
No, he also plays it in Planet Terror.
Really? Oh, I guess he just plays like a creepy guy
No, he plays a
and
rapist.
like a
No,
straight up a rapist.
in Planet Terror, his credit is the rapist.
Oh, are you serious?
Yes.
Oh,
I guess Robert Rodriguez has a thing for.
Typecasted.
yeah. Okay, I don't want to be offensive to Quentin Tarantino, but he has the look. You know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right?
I can see
With,
that.
I will
with
not
all due
confirm or
respect to
deny
him,
anything.
he's a great director. He has the look, okay? And it's tough, man. You know, it's tough to dodge, you know, when you have a look like that. He's probably, I don't know if he's a good guy or not. He's kind of crazy.
I've heard mixed things.
Mixed
Yeah,
things, you know.
mixed bag.
Mixed bag of that dude, but, you know, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, great pick. All right, I want to shout out a zombie movie. My favorite zombie movie because I think the effects.
I
are just
showed it to
awesome.
you.
You showed it us both, and I'll never forget it. Return of the Living Dead, is a
So
just
fun.
specifically for one zombie in that movie, and that is the tar zombie.
It's
I
so
am
That thing is
still
wow.
I am baffled. I still can't wrap my mind around how they were able to do that. Because like when you have like a character who's like a skeleton guy, you know, the head's usually bigger because you're like, oh, you had to wrap like a skeleton mask around someone's head, you know?
Yeah.
But somehow they're able to make it like his head is like small and decomposed, but you can still tell it's a person acting there, and you know, like the jaw's all unhinged and stuff, and I'm like, and he's goopy, he's really skinny, you can see his bones and everything. I'm like,
If
how
it
did they
feels like
do that?
it feels like if the room is like too cold or too hot, like that wouldn't work, you know? Like it feels like
Exactly.
Yeah.
it would like dissipate because you know how like costumes and makeup are on set because
Yeah.
you've got all the bright lights from like trying to light the scenes. And that doesn't bode well for those things, which is why they wrap actors in like 10 pounds of makeup. I can't understand. I don't understand how they did it either. It's
Oh,
like it's incredibly impressive because
Yeah.
there are the bog standard VFX for zombie movies. This one.
yeah.
Like the actual zombies in this that are not that one, very standard zombie fare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
you
But
could
then
tell
when it
from
comes
the
to
face. That
but
guy, I don't.
that guy, what? How? And it's just like, and also it's not only the fact that they are able to achieve that. That's a feat on its own. The second feat is that this guy can move around. He moved like the way this tar zombie moves is like that. It's crazy that they're able to make a practical effect like this and actually have it be able to be very flexible. Like because his movements is just like it's part of the look. Of how he like sort of stumbles and lurks around and stuff like that. It's but also I don't know, like I think some of the other zombies are cool, like the really punk rock zombies,
Yeah,
are
they're
great.
cool.
Cool makeup
Standard.
effects, very standard. But I think for me, it's like that one and Brain Dead are like those are like when it's like elevated zombie body horror. I feel, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Do you think they would be okay? Because those movies are both cult classics
Yeah.
for the horror genre. I don't think they're classics though. Do you think
No.
like? But the thing is,
Yeah.
so it makes me
Yeah.
think like if both films had like somewhat of a more serious narrative or tone, they might be able to find that wider audience. But I'm kind of glad they've not.
Yeah. Because you know what makes it so fun is you get to show that movie to people. You know,
Because
you
they're
get
gonna
to
be like,
show.
"What's that?
Yeah,
That
and
isn't that the Night of the Living Dead?" No, you're like, "No."
you're like,
Different,
well,
man.
no, Night of the Living Dead is like it's a movie in this movie, so it's like a meta sequel. You know, and then the sequel to this is also a meta sequel where Return of the Living Dead is a movie within that movie. But I haven't seen that one. I don't know if it's any good. But yeah, it's a fun time, man. It's a real fun time. All right, we're getting a little close to an hour here. I feel
I
like
have no idea.
we can talk about one more film. Does anyone have like one that you just like we haven't touched on it yet that we gotta?
I kind of do. I have a bunch of honorable mentions, but I do have one of the honorable mentions that does stand
Yeah.
out to me. We haven't talked about puppeteering yet.
Yeah, let's do it.
And my favorite horror puppet of all time
No.
is Chucky from Child's Play.
What a weird.
Hey.
Just kidding.
And
I-
is it always a puppet? Because I've only seen
Yep.
Child's Play, and sometimes it's like that's a person in a suit, but when it's
Yeah,
close-ups and stuff,
I believe it's predominantly a animatronic or puppet.
gotcha.
Yeah, and wow, this one really, I'm shaking my boots when I watch this movie. When I was a kid, like, did you guys ever have like that one horror figure that when you were growing up you were just paralyzingly scared of,
Yes.
but you were like for some reason you were also kind of like morbidly fascinated by them, and you kind of liked googling them and seeing like who they are, what their whole thing is.
Dude, I little gray
It was
aliens.
yours. Just generally a little great.
But it started with the Mars Attacks aliens. Those are the ones that
I thought you were gonna say Communion.
Communion. No, I didn't discover Communion until like 2020 or
College.
something. Yeah, college.
Yeah.
But it was Mars and the aliens from Independence Day. Those guys
Mm.
scared me. But I
You
was
like
like, I was
tentacle creatures.
tenticulars. I went tenticular with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my guys. That I was like, I was like, I'd look at photos and be like, this is so scary, but I can't.
I'm not
I
scared.
can't take my eyes.
Yeah, Brandon's not scared of anything.
That's not true at all. That is not true at all.
I'm not.
We'll find it.
Brandon, can you bring Evelyn in here? Is she in here? Please.
He
Why?
refuses.
All
Yeah,
right.
she'll expose him.
I need. Can you?
Evelyn. Wait, Ethan, you ask.
Yeah. Hi,
Hi.
Evelyn. Welcome
Hello.
to the show. I need to ask you a question. What is Brandon scared of?
Oh.
Because you
Really?
come on. There's got to be
You're
something that you've
bullshitting.
noticed that
There's
he's
gotta-
scared of.
I don't know. Like
Are you-
the things jump out at him. He's like scared of things that jump out at him.
So jump
there's-
scares.
Yeah, like jump scares. But there's nothing he really like he's scared of.
Ugh,
You heard it here first. I'm a brave
so
boy.
boring.
I'm a
Yeah,
brave boy.
but if you jump out behind a corner and go boo, Brandon's
He gets
dead.
scared.
I almost killed Cody with a banana once because
With a banana? What are you, John Wick? All right, thank you, Evelyn.
Alright,
Thank you,
Thanks, Evelyn.
Evelyn.
Um,
Everyone, she's great.
Speaking of Child's Play, Evelyn is a big Child's Play fan. She really enjoys the Chucky movies.
Yeah.
she's like, get her back in here. Just kidding.
You know,
She
just
is
Brandon, get off the show. Just have her replace you. We can talk about this. No,
But
yeah,
we're
Chucky.
talking about childhood fears. This was mine. I went through a brief ghost face era, but then Chucky pervaded throughout like almost all of elementary and middle school. Eventually, once I got to high school, it kind of chilled. But like I remember, I would like be laying in bed and like I would just like open my eyes and see the door and like the light coming through the door and like thinking like, oh my god, this little doll's gonna sneak in and kill me. And my sister used to have like dolls in her room, so that freaked me out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Child's Play is, and also Chucky's movements in here are like really well done because like he moves like a doll, and throughout the sequels you eventually like there's a whole thing where Chucky's trying to become human and his movements like kind of adapt, to kind of complement the stage in life that he's in.
Yeah.
So eventually like he gets like opposable thumbs back or whatever. But yeah, I really dig this movie, and I think the animatronic work for Chucky is amazing. The face mechanics, oh my god, they get so good eventually.
I had
Um, yeah,
I had a baseball bat by my bed so that we could beat up anything that came in.
So you were scared.
he's not scared.
No.
He's paranoid.
No, I'm not scared. I'm brave. I'm gonna kill the attackers coming into my room.
No, because if you were not scared, then you wouldn't care that they come to you.
Well, I am not.
You wouldn't think
I don't
they would
have. I
attack
don't
you.
sleep. I don't sleep next with a baseball bat anymore.
I know, but so you were scared.
I'm not afraid anymore.
I guess I'm an evolved human being now.
Shut up.
Somebody still has nightmares about little gray aliens probing him in the asshole.
Okay, and so what? I'm only human. I get scared. Who cares? I accept that. It's who I am.
All right, write it down.
It's been written down. There's a whole podcast episode about it. I recorded on my own. It's out there. It's out there. Everyone knows.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Before we wrap it up, I do want to talk about visual effects in horror. Since we're at pretty close to an hour here, we're just over now. I just want to shout out a couple films where I feel like they did a really good job, using visual effects and CGI, to really, bring some horror and like bring some monsters to life and really scare you. I think the first one I'm going to shout out, War of the Worlds, obviously Spielberg's War of the Worlds. I think the visual effects still hold up a lot with that one. Nope. I mean, making Jean Jacket.
That was on my list.
Terrifying.
The esophagus scene, being practical.
That's practical though.
Genius.
Absolutely genius. Yeah. Let's see. What else is a good visual? The Mist. Stephen King's The Mist. I think that one's very good with CGI characters, terrorizing you. I think that's all I got for now. Some other just quick shout outs that I want to do. Alien, the Xenomorph,
of course.
Great practical suit.
Great sound design too.
Godzilla, obviously, the guy in the suit, iconic. It's not necessarily scary like what any other monster. It's more that first Godzilla film. I feel like that's more historically scary for what it represents, and the allegory that it's telling. Altered States, very good. Speaking of transformation and body horror, that one's very good. Let's see what else I got here. What else we got? Poltergeist. Ooh, that one has some great effects. For ghosts, I feel like that's really hard to show ghosts, something that's like a very fluid and intangible being. Brandon Perked up when I said being.
The Frighteners.
That one's good. But yeah, people are gonna be they're gonna be yelling at us if we don't mention Evil Dead. Those Evil Dead movies.
Oh
yeah. I was gonna say the newest one if we were gonna.
Evil Dead Rise. Yeah.
Also, cannot wait. None of us can wait for Fede Alvarez's Alien movie.
Yes.
That's gonna be
my
fucking
god.
cool. I can't wait.
I think that's top 3 most anticipated for next year for me. I can't wait for that.
And it's coming so soon.
Yeah, it kind of snuck up on us.
Because they're not talking about it, which I think is great. They're not releasing any info. Like I don't think we barely know who's in the movie. We don't even know the title. He just made it, and then it's like, here it is.
That's what he basically did with the Evil Dead reboot. It was like he just made it. Studio
kept it quiet. The only thing I've seen from it is a picture of the slate with a face hugger wrapped around the slate.
That's cute.
And that's all we need. You're just like, all right, it's gonna be an alien movie. Coming. Just keep it away from us.
Get rid of it. Burn it down.
Get rid of it. Throw it away. Yeah.
Kiss on your soul.
I have some quick shout outs before we end things here.
Yeah.
I want to shout out The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
A Nightmare on Elm Street. Basically all of them. But I'm just gonna shout out the first one because I think that's the best one. The Lighthouse. All that shit with the tentacles. It's
just
it's black and white.
It's more brief though, but it's good.
And the last one. This one is this one I guess would fall closer towards production design, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah, just the way that house. Ugh.
Ooh, the Sawyer
And
house.
and also cinematography, like the camera
Yes,
quality that
the
they use
cinematography
for
was
that, I
amazing.
think helps
Perfect.
a lot for its horror. You know, it's a really like
Absolutely.
grungy film. You know,
Yeah.
it feels
Absolutely.
it sort of feels like found footage. You know,
Mhm.
it's like I found this film reel in some pawn shop in the middle of Texas, and I found this horrific story. You know, that's what it feels like. Brandon, you want to shout out some before we wrap it up here?
Basket Case.
Oh, I
Basket
mean, I don't know if
Case.
it's great. I don't know if it's great, but it's really fun to watch. You know,
Yeah. Zombieland 1, I think, has good VFX for zombies. It has great makeup for Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise.
oh yeah,
Yes.
The obviously I was gonna note The Exorcist 2, not the second one as well.
Right.
X for Mia Goth.
yes. Oh my god,
Yeah.
old people are scary, bro.
Trick or Treat for the Pumpkinhead Kid.
yeah,
Oh my god, if you haven't seen it.
I gotta watch that
Terrifier
one.
for the kills in that movie are
Oh
like
yeah.
probably some of the any of the Saw franchise. Malignant,
Oh, what that? Why did we not talk about that? Yeah.
Barbarian,
Yes.
and
Of
for a more
course.
subtle one is
Oh,
the
Barbarian. So good.
1960s masterpiece, Seconds by John Frankenheimer, which is all about a
Oh.
guy who essentially he's rich but he's like unsatisfied by his life, so he gets recruited into this organization where they like basically do facial reconstructive surgery and
Mm.
change his appearance, and then like he has to
Oh.
like live a new life, but then like there's all about gaslighting and like stuff like that, and it's political. uh but
That's
yeah,
interesting.
very it's more subtle because they don't show all the facial because it was the 60s, but
Yeah.
it what it stands for and when what they do show sometimes it's really fascinating. So
Cool. Wow. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode of Stacked, everybody. Let us know in the comments below what your favorite practical effects or visual effects, just let us know like what makes something scary for you and like, what's that threshold of
is it just somebody jumping
believability?
out at you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, Brandon, that's the weakest fear I've ever heard at all.
I'm not
Chris and I, we
afraid
got.
of it.
Yes,
Just
you
gets me.
are.
No.
That means you're afraid of it. You're afraid of surprises.
It's my birthday.
No, not like that.
That's my favorite surprise.
Oh, see, I got him. I scared him. He's on the
That
ceiling
kind of
now.
scared me because I heard it from the other room first. I was like, "What the fuck was that?" And I heard it on Discord.
You got Chris. You didn't get me.
No, I got you. You should y'all. You should have seen him. His eyes bulged out of his head. His teeth popped out of his gums. His mouth got twice the size of his body. He went. "Ah! That's what he did. All right. Happy Halloween, everybody. We'll see you with more horror topics later this month. Bye.
Bye, team.